that doesn't reflect reality, this idea of very linear, predictable careers where there are enough promotions for everybody, that doesn't actually reflect people's experience. And it also doesn't reflect people's individuality. People want to do different things. They don't necessarily want a career based on conformity. They want the choice to develop in the direction that's right for them.
Hello everybody, welcome to season 4 of Better at Work. We're delighted to be back with you. I'm Carl Quinlan. I've got some exciting news for you. We're now not just in your ears, but on your screens too. That's right, Better at Work is now available to watch on YouTube or Spotify. Explore our conversations with some remarkable guests. And new this season, listeners' questions episodes with my lovely co-host Annette on the Better at Work YouTube channel and Spotify. You can also simply keep listening wherever you get your podcasts. Now, to kick off season 4, I sat down with a very special guest, someone I've admired for a long time, Helen Tupper. Now, Helen is co-author of the Sunday Times bestseller, The Squiggly Career, and of course she's CEO of Amazing If. Helen has helped thousands of people reimagine their career, from climbing that traditional ladder to something far more exciting, full of possibility and squiggly.
But when you flip to squiggly thinking, you don't talk about levels, you talk about learning. You don't talk about grades, you talk about growth. You don't talk about titles, you talk about talents. You don't talk about plans, you talk about possibilities. It's a much more curious and open way of looking at your career.
What I loved about this chat is how practical Helen's advice is and how she takes us into her personal career transformation journey. She realised so many people are stuck chasing ladders and titles. But what really holds us back isn't the structure, it's a lack of confidence. That was the game-changing realisation in her own career. If you've ever felt stuck, or like someone else is actually writing your story, this episode is for you.
It's a big one to have Helen on the show. She's joining us here from our studios in London. Welcome, Helen, to Better at Work.
Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait for the conversation.
It's been such a long time we've been planning this.
I know. I'm really
excited.
Looking forward to it.
Now, look, we start all of our discussions with all of our guests the same way, where did it all start for you? What happened in your early life or along the way that drove this interest in helping people have better careers?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely didn't start with that. Selfishly, I think it was very like my career. I think that's definitely where it started. And I have always been very, very driven, very, very ambitious. And I think I saw the ladder as like the ideal version of success. And early on in my career, I think that was like indicated by like graduate schemes. I mean, graduate schemes are the way to go when careers, particularly like traditional grad schemes, when careers look like ladders, you start on a grad scheme. And I liked them so much, I did 3 back to back.
You were joking.
I loved it. I loved it because it was like ready-made progression.
Oh my God.
So I did this one that was like affiliated with my course, which is where I ended up meeting my business partner back, like this is 2001, where we kind of met each other. 2001? Yeah, gosh. Yeah, early days, we met each other there. I did like a Boots sort of graduate scheme, an early version of it. Then I went and did one at Britvic. Then I went and did an advanced graduate scheme at Procter & Gamble. And then I kind of realised, I need to get a job. I need to get a job. But I think I saw them as a sign of success. And, that was sort of this accelerated progression that I was looking for. And then I hit the jobs. And I realised then that a lot of the learning that I was looking for didn't seem to happen every day in a normal job, and that these ideas of kind of wait your turn, do your time, stay in your lane, like these started to be some of the things that I was seeing. And I forced it quite a lot. Like I moved across a couple of different companies. I really tried to force the point. I was like, I'm not sure that this is what a good career looks like. And I had a degree of success in doing that, but I think that was because I was so ambitious and driven and so confident. And I started to realise that other people were feeling quite stuck in traditional structures and they didn't have the same level of confidence or support in navigating it as I did. And I guess it was that sort of insight that was shared with my friend, now business partner, that led us to say, well, how can we help people? What can we do? And so that was about 2013, where we were both sharing very similar reflections on our careers and our experience. and also this insight that other people were finding the same situations but didn't have the ability to change it themselves. They needed some help that wasn't available.
Wow. So you saw that kind of consistent gap that other people were having as well.
Yeah, they would say,
Wow.
I feel stuck and I don't know what to do about it and I want to do something different, but I don't know how to make it happen. And what also seemed to be true is the more senior you got in a company, the more career support you could access.
Oh God, yes. That is so true. And it's almost like you want to give that to people a bit sooner, right?
Absolutely. And why I really don't understand why we don't do that, why the majority of the workforce are given the minority of the support. It doesn't stack up to me, because don't you want...
It's almost like they don't want them to have an aha moment too early, because they want to work them for a few years.
Well, but then I kind of think, well, if they don't have it, then they'll probably leave to get it elsewhere. And what a waste for everybody. So we kind of had this principle of, well, let's democratize career development. Let's not limit learning by level. Let's make this accessible to everybody. And that was a real guiding thought in our early days. And it's definitely become part of our company now. But I mean, we didn't have a company in 2013. Yeah. We just had this insight.
You were doing still your job, and you were doing a bit of it at the weekends and everything, right?
Which is like running like these little evening sessions that 6 people turned up to.
But it's such a good way to do it, like, and I know we'll talk about that, like, how do you kind of look for opportunities maybe when you're in a career you don't love? How do you actually find I suppose, opportunities to do things that you think you're going to love more?
Yeah.
Now, for any of our listeners that never heard of the Squiggly Career, because we know some of our listeners in Australia and the US, etc., haven't, how would you explain, what is a Squiggly Career?
Yeah, no, it's a really good, let's start there. Let's start there. So we are trying to contrast with the idea of the ladder-like career. So if we start there, the ladder-like career says that you pick a path, you progress by going up the ladder, you start talking about, the next step. Mm-hmm. The assumption is that success is seniority, and that's what everybody wants from work, and, that promotions are possible, because that's all sort of the ingredients of ladder-like careers. Our perspective is that doesn't reflect reality, this idea of very linear, predictable careers where there are enough promotions for everybody, that doesn't actually reflect people's experience. And it also doesn't reflect people's individuality. People want to do different things. They don't necessarily want a career based on conformity. They want the choice to develop in the direction that's right for them. So Squiggly Career, we believe, is a better way of people thinking about their career. It gives them the freedom and flexibility to develop in different directions, but it also it presents to people that actually your career is probably not going to be predictable. You and I are going to need to develop skills we have not got yet. We are potentially going to do jobs that don't even exist yet. And if we are open to that, we'll create more opportunities. But if we are closed to that, if we're not proactive, if we're not exploring, if we're not curious, then actually our careers become quite vulnerable. And we don't want people to be vulnerable in a context of change. We want people to use that change to fuel their career rather than mean that it sort of leaves them feeling lost. That's not what we want.
I love I heard you say this on another podcast recently. You said, think talent, not titles. And I thought it was really interesting, because what you're trying to get people to think about is what are their unique talents, and actually how can you accelerate those, as opposed to thinking in, I've got to reach this next title.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of ladder-like language that goes along with that concept. So you end up, if you look at careers like ladders, you end up with words like, or kind of a fixation on titles.
Yeah.
And everything has to sound similar and a bit more senior to what I currently do.
Yeah.
So you get the kind of junior, executive, direct. It's all in the same path, all a bit more senior. And you end up talking about plans, the perfect career plan.
Yeah.
You talk about promotions, you talk about levels, you talk about grades. But when you flip to squiggly thinking, you don't talk about levels, you talk about learning. You don't talk about grades, you talk about growth. You don't talk about titles, you talk about talents. You don't talk about plans, you talk about possibilities. It's a much more curious and open way of looking at your career. And the language is actually a really fundamental part, because, if you were my manager, I'd be talking to you about my career. And if I talk to you about the next job title I want in Cahal's company, or the next level I want to get to, it's quite a closed conversation. But if I talk to you about the talents I want to be known for and the learning I want to gain so I can grow, very different conversation.
Yeah, it's interesting, because having myself worked in large companies for too long. There's a lot around job architecture and, okay, this is what's expected at this level. Here are the core capabilities you need, etc. And I do think people's brain goes to, okay, I've got to do that. I've got to do a project that's going to allow me to do X.
Yeah.
And sometimes they move away from what they're actually really good at, and they lose a bit of spark, I think, when they do. Not everyone, but some.
Well, I think, so one of the squiggly skills we talk about is the importance of values. And I think, and values are what motivates and drives you. And if you don't have an awareness of that, I think you fall into the trap of validation. So I think a lot of that is, well, I need to tick that box.
Yes.
And you kind of lose sight of, is it the box I really want to tick? Because you just think, well, I need to be successful and senior, so I've got to tick that box. And I'm not sure box ticking is people always being at their best, to your point.
I totally agree. And I didn't have this question, but just as you were talking there, I was thinking about men and women. Do you think they squiggle differently, in terms of, because my experience of women is that they're often the ones who have to and do take time out to have children, etc. And then they have to come back and almost have a different role. I've often seen it in big corporates where they leave a job as a manager. They come back in. It's like, oh, actually, you want to work 3 days a week. You can't go back to be a manager. You're going to have to come back in as a different role. Whereas men, if they take, paternity leave, it's usually 4 weeks, etc. They're back into their normal job. That was just as coming in on the train thinking, do you see a difference in how they squiggle?
There's actually some interesting differences that we kind of see with gender on the skills, on the career moments, and also general on proactive engagement in this. So I can share what we see.
Yeah.
We see women more proactively engaging in learning about their career. So picking up Squiggly Career, for example. So when I go into a company, everyone engages equally. But outside of the company bringing us in, I would say we see more women. I look at the demographics of our podcast, for example. I see more women. Okay, so that I see kind of slightly more interest and proactivity from women on that side, even though I think this is important for everybody. In terms of sort of moments that matter, I think particularly for women, you mentioned kind of childcare, for example. There's a definite pivot point for women where they have slightly different pressures in their career, which lead them to reconsider what they want from work. I think there seems to be more of those pivotal moments. So we definitely see, I'm interested in career change. I don't know how to do it. I want to do something different, but I have some constraints on me now because I've got childcare. So there does seem to be that kind of point. I think it's interesting when people find squiggly.
Yeah.
People will often come to me at an event and they'll be like, oh, you really helped me when, and so there are sort of moments at time when people get made redundant, when people have a significant career change, where people have made a bad move and they think, oh, you really helped me when. It seems to be where a lot of people find it.
Yeah, we get similar. It's sometimes as well when people are reaching a milestone birthday like 40 or 50, they go, oh, I need to have a little bit of a look at where I'm at in my career. But no, I find as well, I've seen in some cases with women, they are able to pivot better than men because they've had to, actually, I went on maternity leave 4 years ago and I came back into a different role. I didn't think I loved marketing, but actually the role that was available was in marketing. It's been brilliant. And I've learned all these new skills, which I think is a great benefit for people, and particularly women when that happens. I do see on the other side, sometimes women get disgruntled when they come back and they're like, they probably are still in that ladder-like mindset of like, oh, I've gone back down the ladder now. I used to often hear that from having 2 children. I was here, my peer has gone 2 rungs above me, right? There's
that was the third area I was going to say. So I see that sort of proactivity, a difference there. I definitely see the moments that matter. There are some different moments that matter. And the third is the skills that people, because there are 5 skills that we think are important for people succeeding in a squiggly career. One of them is confidence. And I see some specific confidence gremlins resonate more with women. So the imposter one I see a lot, which is kind of a fear of being found out, is how we frame it. Comparison resonates a lot, and also likability. Those 3, when I kind of look across different audiences, for women, those gremlins are bigger.
Yeah, I completely agree. We'll touch on some of those
Okay.
gremlins as well. You know, I was thinking about my own experience as well. And I got Harrison, who's here today, was asking me about some of the things that have happened in my career that might resonate with people on social media. And I actually did suffer burnout twice in my career. And one time was because of this focus on the career ladder, you know, like really pushing, working crazy hours, doing work that really I didn't really love, but I was in the kind of machine almost, if you like.
I saw that post on social media and I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah, and I thought it was important to share that, but it kind of links to what you guys do and talk about a lot in Squiggly Career, is that this kind of concept of the ladder can be quite stressful, right? And the question I put down here is, you know, do you think that some people come to Squiggly, and I think you kind of mentioned it there, at moments where they're burnt out as well?
Yeah, I think they come because they're lost. I think they come because what they're doing doesn't feel right to them anymore. But I mean, I also have people that come to Squiggly because they're like really ambitious. Like they're not lost. They're like, they're hungry. But what they've realized is that the traditional route to success isn't going to do it for them. So they are definitely more in, I am excited about my career. I love what I do. I just want to do more. And I know I need to think a bit more creatively about how to do that, because I don't want to wait to get promoted. I want to do more now. So I think it's, for us, for Squiggly, we want Squiggly to be kind of as universal as possible for people, but there are definitely different motivations.
I mean, your stuff, it applies. And so, I mean, we'll talk about the 5 skills. They're just so relevant for people in all different phases of their career. You just got me thinking there as well, as you're talking about careers. It's my partner says to me, I said I was still ambitious for my career when I stepped out of one job. And he said to me, you shouldn't be ambitious for your career, you should be ambitious for your life. Which is a really interesting. Oh, actually, you know my partner, of course, because you've done some work with them. I just I just thought of that. But yeah, it's interesting because I think Squiggly Careers is a little bit about, you know, working on your values, thinking about what kind of a life do you want. It's not necessarily about this ladder, this career ladder.
I always find it's really important. Sometimes I talk to people about what I do. And obviously, I'm very passionate like you. I'm very passionate about what I do. And they'll go,
I think you're more passionate than me.
I'm obsessed. But they'll say to me, oh, Helen, it's only work. And I kind of get the point that they're making. But then I do think your work. So in your life, the thing that you do most with your entire hours of your life is sleep. So I can't help anyone with that. But the thing that you do next with the most hours in your life is work.
Yeah.
And so I think work is really important. I think it's important to your identity.
I agree.
I think if you are happy at work, that has ripples on people that you spend time with outside of work. And so I think work is, I think it matters.
I'm with you. That's why I started a podcast 3 years ago. It's like, when work's not good, life's not good.
Yes.
You know, we had Margaret Heffernan on the podcast.
Oh, I love Margaret.
I love her. And she made a great point. I said to her, you know, when work's not good, life's not good. And she said to me, and you know what, Carl, it's not just life's not good for you. It's for all the people around you. It's for your wife, your husband, your kids. So it is very important.
Yeah.
You know, that's why I think, you know, you've got the passion for it. I have the passion for it. And that's why I wanted to get you on, because I think so many people are still a little bit stuck at times. And sometimes they have the energy. They want to do something to fulfill themselves more. Let's talk about the skills, though.
Okay.
Because the 5 core skills, which I love: values, strengths, confidence, community, possibilities. So good. We'll start. We won't go through all of them, but let's start with, I love, I kind of flip them around because I like skill. I've put values as skill 1.
Okay.
I really like.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you've done that. Okay,
Really?
Secret debate. I'm going to let you into a little squiggly secret
I've
here.
got a secret here. Let's
Okay,
go.
so
He's writing it down.
in
Harrison's
the
writing it down.
book, strengths comes first.
Yes, it does. Yes.
This was a big debate between me and my business partner, because I believe values should come first. It's so interesting
So
that
I
you've done
think
that.
the same, to be honest. Annette, hello Annette, who does the show with me. We had similar discussions in some of the content we were putting together about, you know, should self-awareness come first?
Yeah.
You know, and actually, we both landed, yes, it should come first. And when I read through your book, I was like, oh, I feel like values to me in my brain is the
me
place
too.
to start.
So I'll tell you the rationale, and then I'll tell you the naughty thing that I do to go. So my business partner's rationale, which I do buy, is that strengths is a little bit easier, perhaps, to get started with. Whereas, values, you do have to, you're diving quite deep if you want that to be meaningful. So she was like, let's ease people in. We'll start with strengths. But my little naughty thing that I do is every company that I go into, I start with values. Every company.
Oh my God. And I flipped. She actually has my questions, everyone, because I had to send them to Helen because my iPad, I forgot it. So yeah, I flipped
I
it.
hope my
was
business
like,
partner doesn't hear this. She'll be so
yes,
cross
don't
at me.
let her hear it. But what I think is great with the values, the book stresses the importance of understanding your core values, aligning your career choices with them. And I love, there's a quote in the book, reflection helps you align your career path with what truly matters to you. Now, I had a lady on the show and we talked a lot about values called Aisha Bassel. I think I mentioned to her separately. She's brilliant. And I'll ask you a question linked to values. Who's your hero and why?
Oh, my nan.
And why would that be?
Because she has been through some tough things. Everything from, I don't know, being evacuated in a war to my father dying. So I think when I was 11, so losing her son and then she's been on her own for a very long time. And she is just resilient. She's positive and she is relevant. So I can have a conversation with my 96-year-old nan about anything. And she's no judgment. She's amazing.
So resilient, positive. I mean, and that's you, so the reason that Aisha said you ask people that question is you get a really clear sense of their values very quickly, as opposed to asking them, write these down, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But I always, like you, start with the values because even when I interview people, I'm interviewing nannies at the moment. Our lovely nanny is pregnant.
Okay.
And some of the nannies, I think, are like, what the hell? I asked a nanny on Zoom yesterday, I said, so who's your hero? She was like, I said, and why? Because I do think it gives you a good sense of someone's values.
Yeah.
So I love that you guys had values in here. And good. And Nan is still alive. And
she is. She's amazing. Thank you for letting me give Joyce a little shout out.
Joyce, I hope she'll listen in now. Now, and then I then went with identifying my strengths next.
Okay. Yeah.
And I loved, what I loved in it was, and I've got a little picture of it here. I took a picture of it. You have this career graph, which I loved. I was on that yesterday, looking at it on your website. And it's great because it kind of gives you this, you reflect on your career and step one is you plot your career highs and lows, starting at the beginning of your career up to today. And then step two is, what do your career highs have in common? And what can I learn from my career lows? Which I thought it's such a clever way to think about your strengths.
I love doing this exercise. This isn't even better if you do it with somebody else. So I could sit down with you for 20 minutes. You would talk about your highs and lows and you would just reflect. And I think people just quite like reflecting on their career, like going through it. And as I'm listening to you, all I'm doing is writing down the words that you're saying. And the words that you say, also the way that you say them, because sometimes, you'll go, oh, I hated that job. And your head will go here. And sometimes you'll be like, oh, I loved it. And you'll lean in. So I kind of put like little marks when people, based on how they're doing it. And I'm just collecting clues, the words you say more than once, the way that you say them. And after 20 minutes, you're like, and now I'm here. I go, well, here's what I heard. And it's not my job to say these are your values because that's your choice. But I have subtly collected some data for your development based on you sharing your story. And that might be, you said, the word connection 5 times. And most of the time people don't know because you've been in your story. I have been listening. It's actually also a very good way of practicing listening. So it kind of works for both people.
Oh, I have to say, I love it. I think it's a really smart way of doing it. And I reflected myself on this yesterday and I thought, okay, when were the times when was the lows? I worked with one particular person who, her boss said to me, why don't you like working with her? And I said, look, she stifles my entrepreneurial spirit. And, I wrote that down yesterday. I thought, okay, I don't enjoy working for people who are micromanagers because I'm quite entrepreneurial. And that was one of the skills that was really useful in big organizations. They liked that I was entrepreneurial. I'd go, okay, let's see, what's a different way we could do this? What's Apple doing? Oh, they'd be like, we're a bank. I go, I don't care. There's things we can learn. But if I work for someone who's really like process, like robot, like doesn't work for me. And I think this is a great exercise for people, because sometimes it mightn't be the job, it might be the person you're working for. There's so many things that drive the highs and lows, I
Quite
think.
cathartic, because you're like, oh, that job was awful.
Totally.
I've done that.
But Helen, I think what happens as well is I particularly see people in their late 30s, early 40s, they are really all about who they're going to work for. I've heard it from so many people in big banks, in big organizations. They say to me like, I'm done. I decide, I meet the person. I need to see that I can enjoy working with them. It's interesting. You don't see that in the 20s and maybe 30s, but certainly late 30s, 40s. I get that. I'm going off little data points I pick up myself. But people get very particular about who they work for.
They do, though. I would fly a little flag and say, just be a bit aware of like the cult of a manager. You know, because I have definitely known people. My business partner did that actually. She moved to a company based on the manager, only to find out that within like the first month, the manager moved on.
Oh God,
and then,
that's not good.
Yeah, so I do think that whilst it is, is a really important consideration, I would recommend that people try to get a sense of the culture of the company, a bit of exposure to the team, so that it's not a decision based on one person.
Totally. No, I'm with you on that. But the exercise is so good. It's great to kind of go, okay, look, I was lit up when I did this type of work, or where I was, given the rein to come up with a new way of working or whatever it is. Like that for me is great. You never, like I know for me, you don't give me a job where they say, the boss says, just keep it running as it is exactly, don't change a thing. I'm running out the door ASAP. Now, you touched a minute ago on these confidence gremlins, which is skill 3, which is managing self-doubt. Now, when I read the book again, I thought Sarah was really kind with the way she shared in the book, her fear of conflict as well, which was really interesting. And she, if I remember correctly, she was in these meetings where she felt there was a lot of conflict happening, and she walked out with one of her colleagues, and she was ranting to him about it. Yeah. And she said, oh, if conflict was out of 10, that was 8. And he was like, what? It was like a 2.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because, I thought it was really good the way she shared it. And in the book, I love the way you've got these little exercises people can do to think about what are some of the confidence gremlins they might have.
Yeah.
But great. You said earlier, a lot of women have this confidence gremlins.
Well, I think the thing with confidence gremlins, everybody has them. That what we do see is that different people have different gremlins. Yeah. And it has been unintentionally the skill that we have ended up sort of spending the most time on. So we wrote about it in the Squiggly Career. We wrote about it in You Coach You. We then wrote another book called on how to know and cage your confidence gremlins. And the reason is, I think it is the biggest thing that holds people back. And I've come to the conclusion really that with all the stuff that we do, confidence is the difference between knowing and doing. So people can know what their values are and they can know what strengths they want to stand out, but whether they actually take any action is very often a result of, is there a gremlin getting in my way? Am I worried that if I do have that conversation with you, you might not like me? Yeah. Or am I worried that if I take that risk, I might fail? Or am I worried that I'm too old to start again in a different career? And these gremlins that are these voices in our heads, these sort of negative narratives, our inner critics massively in control, hold so many people back. And it doesn't matter how senior they are. It doesn't matter what country they're in. Like, we see gremlins everywhere. And we just need to start talking about them so they're in the spotlight and less in control.
I loved it. And I thought you did that very smart in the book, how you can help people with it. I also loved, you just reminded me, at the start of the book, you said no one cares about your career as much as you do, which I think kind of links to the confidence gremlins going, hey, you know what? You might be 50, you mightn't have done that type of work before, but who cares? Go try it. It's great that you're giving people that confidence to go and try something new.
I think that is probably the most common bit of feedback I've generally had about Squiggly Career, is that it gives people permission.
Yeah.
It's given them like a language to talk about their career. People have even said they'll take the book and say, this is my career. It sort of justifies, I don't want to be a ladder-like person. I want to be somebody who is individual. And this concept of a Squiggly Career kind of gives me a bit of permission to. And I really like that Squiggly Career just in of itself is giving people a little bit more confidence. We need to work with the gremlins too, but if it's a little bit of a boost to someone's belief that this validates something they want to do that they haven't felt comfortable talking about. Like I'm very happy that Squiggly can do that for them.
I think you guys have done a great job in it, because here in the UK, I mean, I don't know anyone that doesn't know of Squiggly Careers. And I think
there may be a few, but we'll get there.
People love it because I agree with you. I think it gives people a bit of they stand taller and they go, oh, you know what? I could do this too, you know?
Yes, yeah.
I don't need to be climbing up some ladder that it's not going to be for me.
Yeah.
The other skills you've got in there are, and we'll reference the book on the show notes, etc. But you've got building supportive networks and communities. I really love that. I love that you said in the book, networking is about building relationships, not just connections. I love that, because a lot of people, they just want the connection, but.
Well, I don't know if they want them. They just think that that's what success looks like. Like the more people I know, the better my network. Whereas we have this idea that really it's about people helping people, that it's the thing that's going to build the best relationships is where you help people. And actually that idea of people helping people is quite useful psychologically, because even if you have someone who goes, I hate networking, I hate it, I'm out. Yeah. People do like helping people. Like it's a human trait to want to help people, and it actually makes you feel good when you do it. But then Adam Grant has amazing research on this. What he shows is that givers get more back. Yeah. So if you start with how can I be helpful, sort of an easier place for your brain to start building relationship in. And then the payoff is that results in reciprocity. So, people want to help you over time anyway. I
completely agree. I mean, I get a dopamine hit out of helping people.
Me too.
My trainer at the gym always says to me, he goes, I don't understand why you just if he was to say to me, I'm going to take my girlfriend out to a restaurant, by the end of the session, I've given him 3 places to go and do not go to that place and blah, blah, blah. And I don't know what it's like, but I get a real, and then I love when he tells me, I took her here. Aww. It was great. So I agree with what you said.
It feels good. You feel you're like useful, you're sharing. And I think, oh gosh, imagine companies where it's not based on people competing with people, which is what the ladder leads to, is people helping people. Like it's just better. It's
so much better. And then the final skill you've got is exploring future possibilities. And I love that, the book encourages readers to keep an open mind about future opportunities and be proactive. And I love the whole thing that like sideways, moves can lead to the most unexpected and fulfilling opportunities. That is so true.
Yeah. And there are more. There are just more sideways moves. I think if up is the only way, you start to stall because you end up waiting for things and waiting for people to move on. But if you look sideways, or you look at project opportunities, or even you think, what if I went back to something I did before? Because maybe I'm a different person now. Like I could go back to companies I've worked in before. I could go back to functions I've worked in before. Yeah. But when you look at careers like ladders, going back is bad. When you look at careers like Squiggly, going back is just a different direction you could develop in. It's not, we kind of want to be neutral about like, where are you going to learn the most? Where are you going to be able to stretch your strengths in interesting ways? Like whether it's up, back, sideways, something different, that's almost neutral. Just consider the possibility.
Absolutely. And I know McKinsey had put out something a few months ago on the fact that actually sometimes these sideways moves can give you even more. Yeah. I actually thought of you. I was like, oh my God, that's like so aligned with Squiggly, right? In that actually it's sometimes not about a pay rise, etc. You talk to people that have done a sideways move, they get even more out of it.
Yes, well, they get more opportunity. And also the research shows that it can lead to more pay. So there's this assumption that, well, if I want to be paid more, then I need to get promoted. Therefore, that's the only possibility I'll consider. But if you're waiting for a long time, you might be better to stretch your sense in a sideways move and build better relationships in a different area. And that increases sort of your career capital. And it's shown that those people then get paid more over time. So we just need to think slightly differently about, I guess, what we have been told that success sort of looks like.
I completely agree. And, they're the 5, which I absolutely love. And I was thinking about linking to that skill 5, which is explore future opportunities, because your early career was in marketing.
Yeah.
And, how do you think that skill in marketing has helped you pivot into this kind of career space that you're in now?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I guess I want to help as many people as possible succeed in Squiggly Careers. And I think marketing is a skill that helps you create connection, get messages out in the world, build a brand that resonates. And so all the things that I learned in marketing have helped me to scale and grow my business, definitely. And I love marketing. I still get to do lots of marketing now. I get to think about how do we create Squiggly Career campaigns and how do we build communities on different platforms? And, all of my marketing skills are brought into what I do today. I don't have the job of the title of marketing anymore, but the talent is very much present in the work that I do.
I mean, you guys kill it, because Annette and I and Phoebe and our little small team, we always look at you guys as the kind of, wow, those guys have built a brilliant brand, marketed it so well. Honestly, I can see your skills.
And we've got two of us as well. Haven't you got two? We both worked in marketing.
Oh, wow. So Sarah worked in marketing as well.
Yeah, we both worked in marketing in slightly different kind of parts of marketing. So I did more insight, innovation. Sarah did more sort of brand marketing, so tone of voice.
Wow.
So we kind of have that passion and past experience that we get to, we get to play with. It's brilliant.
Yeah. I tell you, the stuff is... If anyone listening has not gone on Amazing AF or seen the resources, that you guys give a lot of resources for free.
Well, it's back to democratizing development.
Yeah,
we
it's
just,
brilliant.
and also, to be honest, we have so many ideas that we can't, it's just giving things away that are useful. Oh, useful is one of our values. It just works for us. And I think what we have realized is back to people helping people, the more people we help with Squiggly Careers, so the more useful resources we create for people, the more communities and campaigns we create, the more people advocate for Squiggly.
Yeah.
So, that's not why we do it, but that is the result of us putting work out into the world, is that people identify with it and they want it to succeed. So we just have ideas all the time. I can't stop creating. It's just
It's
in
great.
my DNA to do it.
It's such a good skill set to have, And the other thing I was thinking about is, because we talked about you go into companies as well. And when I first saw this, I mean, it might have been 2-3 years ago, I discovered that you guys were going into companies. I was like, what? I'm surprised companies are bringing them in to advertise Squiggly Careers, because won't they lose their best people? And then I discovered a bit more. But actually, tell us, why do companies bring you in now more and more to share Squiggly Careers with all their people?
Well, what our aim is to help people squiggle and stay. That's the aim. So we want people to own their Squiggly Career, and we want companies to create an environment where they can squiggle and stay, so they don't get stuck in a silo.
Yeah.
We want them to have possibilities in the company. So when we work with a company, we work across sort of 3 different areas. So the first is, does the individual have the skills to succeed in their Squiggly Career, which is what we talked about? Do they know those things? The second is, do they have the support to make that possible? That is largely in the form of a conversation they might have with a manager. So can a manager create Squiggly Career conversations, learning cultures in a team? Do they have frequent feedback that helps people grow and develop? There's lots of ways in which managers support and enable people's Squiggly Careers. And then the third area is a structure. Do we have structures where people can squiggle and stay, or do we just lose people because they're stuck in a silo? And so the companies that most successfully adopt Squiggly Careers work on skills, support and structures. They're working across those. And it isn't, not every company we work with is able to do that yet. They might start with skills and they're building a bit of momentum, and we'll get to the next bit. But that really is where we make the biggest difference.
I think it's great, because I think a lot of companies are realizing that, people are going to leave if they don't see opportunities in different areas or something that's going to, I suppose, play more to their talents. I think it's really smart of companies to do it.
Well, we did some kind of research around this, around squiggle and stay, and there were sort of 3 reasons why people find it easier to leave and develop their career outside of their company than stay and do it inside the company. And then the 3 reasons are: 1, a lack of awareness. So I can't see what I can be. I know I want to develop in the company, but I can't see outside of marketing. I don't know what I can do. Yeah. But if I look on LinkedIn, there's lots of jobs there. I'll just apply for that. So the first is, you've got to give people greater awareness of the opportunities in an organisation where their talents could take them to a job, not just their titles. The second is access. So we make it very hard for people to get to new jobs. Or you've got to be here for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
You've got to go through 10 interviews. You've got to have this rating. And then I'll just apply for that job. I don't have to do any of those things. I know that I could do it and I'll go there. So we need to make it easier. We kind of say like, try before you apply. How can you get, spend a week working in that team or get some exposure on a project, like help people to try before they apply, make access easier. And then the third reason is advocacy. So even if I can see what I can be and I've sort of tried it and I know I want to apply, I might need somebody to speak up for me and say, well, I know Helen's not worked in procurement, but I have seen that she's really commercial. I've seen that with her work in marketing, and I think we should give her a chance or give her the opportunity. If you can crack awareness, access and advocacy, people will stay. But most people aren't trying to sort of cracking those things. And so it's just easy for me to look somewhere else and leave.
And that's really sad because I think then organizations do lose some amazing people. And I saw some great stats on your website, like people starting work today will have twice as many jobs over their careers compared to 15 years ago. And I also saw nearly 50% of people say they would leave an organization where they can't progress in some way.
Yeah. I think people want to progress. I think we do this really fun exercise in some of our sessions where we call it progression bingo. And so obviously when you're looking at careers like a ladder, the only way you progress is getting promoted. Our kind of premises in Squiggly Careers, there's lots of ways you can progress. So we get everyone to basically fill out the bingo card. What are all the ways in which you can progress? And they'll talk about, I could shadow someone, I could go on a secondment, I could work on a project, loads of ways.
Yeah.
And then, and obviously promotion is one of those ways. And then we ask people, this is the bit that I really love, well, what do you want to do most now? And hardly anyone ever says promotion. They go, actually, I'd quite like to do a squiggly secondment. I'd quite like to go spend 9 months in a different role and just see what it's like. Or I'd like to go just do 50-50. I'd like to do a bit of a job share. I'd like to do 50% of my time there. And it's like, well, let's get a bit more creative with what career development can look like. And people, people want to progress. They just don't, they've only been given promotion as the way of doing it.
I completely agree. And I used to see sometimes in big organizations, managers think they own the people in the team. And I used to say to my peers, I go, we don't own these people. Like Helen is really good at that. I am going to allow her to have a secondment over there because I think that's great for the organization. But I think sometimes people get a bit territorial even on their people. They go, well, I invested in them. I brought them in. I don't want them going off doing something that, I then have to go and hire another person.
Yeah, I think metrics don't help this.
No.
So we have created lots of structures where the metrics that managers are measured against detract from them letting people go and develop in different directions because they go, well, you're such a strong performer. I need you to stay in my team because your performance determines my performance and therefore you're not going anywhere. And you get this kind of talent hoarding thing that happens.
Totally.
Whereas if we had some mobility metrics, so if there were manager metrics that were more about how many people have moved into other areas in the business from your team, how many people who have done what we call a squiggly safari, where they'll have spent time in different teams. If we had some more mobility metrics, I think there might be a greater appetite for managers to, positively support some of these things.
I agree. And because sometimes some of the other metrics you have is, managers get very worried if people are not staying in their team for a long time, right? Or
what does it say about me?
I've got high turnover in the team, whatever. So I agree. I think there's a little bit of work to do around that in big organizations. Now, we're on to our final few questions. Okay. Is there anything happening in the world of careers right now that's really exciting you?
Oh, that's a lovely question. What's exciting me in the world? I think I think one of the most exciting things, and everyone's talking about AI. So it's not AI specifically, but it's just this recognition of that skills need to be updated. Like I feel like skills being in a boardroom conversation is exciting to me. That people are saying, what's the skill status in our organisation? What new skills do we want to develop? Where have we got skill gaps? I just think this is becoming a much more significant conversation. And as somebody who is very, very passionate about learning at work, I care about careers and I care about learning at work, I feel like they are becoming a bit more significant in very senior discussions. And I am all for that.
I'm so with you. I think the same. Skills, it's like at the table for once.
Yeah.
Similar for me, I'm very passionate about leadership, and leadership is now being discussed a lot, right? You know, how can we have better leaders? How do we set them up for success, etc.? So we're getting a lot of calls about that. Help me build a program. Help me do this. I'm like, oh my God, what's happening?
Yeah,
So
it's
it's
brilliant.
exciting,
Yeah, it's
right?
really exciting.
Now, we ask all of our guests these final 3 questions. What's the smallest possible change you think our listeners could do to have an impact and a better day at work tomorrow?
I think the smallest things they could do is to start reflecting on their, what we call your very small successes, or what you do well at work. And the reason to do this is, you know, I said that confidence gremlins are getting in most people's way.
Yeah.
So that's where you'll kind of be telling yourself a kind of negative story about what you're doing.
Yeah.
I think if we start to kind of just say at the end of the day, what did I do well today? What did I do well today? Not only are you likely to start spotting some strengths of like, well, I did that well because I used that skill. I think you also start in a small but cumulative way to build your self-belief. So what did I do well today? I think is a useful reflection.
Love that. Okay, I'm going to try that tonight. I did not do well with bringing my iPad today to this interview, so I had to borrow Helen's one.
People helping people.
People helping people. Can you share with our listeners something you learned or experienced at work that unexpectedly made your whole life better?
Oh, my business partner. I learned my business partner, but what I specifically learned, and it has made my whole work and my life better, is she is my opposite in every way. She is an introvert. I'm an extrovert. She is very thoughtful and reflective. I'm all about action. And the compliments of people who are your opposite, I think can be amazing. Like we run a better business because of our differences. And I think it is very easy to work with people who are similar to you, that you feel comfortable with. But sometimes those points of difference are what makes you better. And I'm definitely better because of her.
I love that. I hope she's listening.
To this bit, not the first bit.
Exactly. Yeah, not the first bit about the values. We finish all interviews with this question. Can you recall, Helen, the best advice you received that you think makes you better at work?
Do you know, I can recall the advice, but I cannot recall where it came from. But it goes through my head almost every day. And the advice is to run your own race. And I find that stops me ever needing to compete or compare. It helps me go, well, you know, use your values. If you're running your own race, you're using your values to run that race, and you can define your own measures of success. And it just keeps me on my own path at my own pace, not trying to, you know, worry about other people.
I love that. Thank you so
thank you.
much. I can't believe we've had you on. And I know my lovely co-host Annette's going to be so excited to hear this as well.
Hello, Annette.
She is a huge fan of yours. And for anyone that wants more information on Squiggly Careers, you can go to amazingif.com, where you'll find lots of practical tools and advice. Plus, I'd love to give a little plug to the Squiggly Career video book, which is now live on litvideobooks.com.
Yeah, they have loads. They've basically taken the concept of a book, turned it into a video, and it's quick and easy. They have loads of them.
It's so good. It really does bring the Squiggly Career to life. And Helen and Sarah, they talk through insights and important exercises within the video as well. And finally, do follow the amazing Helen on LinkedIn.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Whoa, I absolutely loved that chat. I hope you did too. And a huge thank you to Helen Tupper. Now, do pick up a copy of Squiggly Career at all good bookshops, and make sure you check out the Squiggly Career podcast too. And you might have heard it, she's got a new book on the way, Helen. So give her a follow on LinkedIn and you'll hear all about the release date for that. Now back to our new episodes. We have a brand new listeners question episode coming next Thursday. I'll be answering all your career related questions with Annette. So do drop them in the comments below, or head on over to betteratwork.net/contact us. As always, we will also be giving you the key takeaways from my chat with Helen, because we know Annette, no one does takeaways like Annette, so I know you're all going to be delighted to hear those next Thursday. Plus, I'm super excited about our next guest, organizational psychologist Dr. Tasha Urich. She's back on the show talking about her new book, Shatterproof. You can't miss it.
When you grit gaslight yourself, you say things like, this isn't the hardest thing I've been through. Why am I falling apart? Other people have it way worse than me, and they seem to be fine. Why can't I just suck it up and deal? But what we don't know is we are human beings who have a limited amount of resilience. And just because we got through everything we got through in the past and we're here, doesn't mean that we might not reach that ceiling at some point.
You won't want to miss Tasha, so make sure you hit subscribe if you're watching on YouTube or listening on your podcast app. Thanks for listening. I'm Cathal Quinlan, and this has been Better at Work.